Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Today we're going to be detectives. Actually, we're going to be archaeologists. Does anybody know what an archaeologist is? Anybody have a guess? Well, an archaeologist is like a detective, except for history. What they do is they look for little clues and they try and put them all together and get the big picture. And that's what we're going to do today. Here we go, Bill. Why don't you get these out? I know you like to walk around a lot, so. Okay. Now, up in the front, if you'll notice, I have 3 different boxes. These are our artifacts boxes. And before we even open them, I want you to look at them. I'll hold them up so you can see. All right? If you notice, I want you to notice if there are any differences in the boxes. Okay, there's one. Okay, here's another box. All right, before we even get into them. And here's our third box. All right. And on these sheets that you're being handed, what I would like you to do is I would first like you to write down what you notice about the difference in the 3 boxes. If you do notice a difference, or if you think they're the same. And then when we open them, what I'm going to ask you to do is I want you to go through the material that's in the boxes, and I want you to list the materials, because what we're going to do is we're going to put all of this together and see if we can find out what we're looking for here, what this is all about. Okay? So, how about we give you guys this box, and you can look through this, and you can assign somebody to, like, maybe open the box and hand out the things, or look at the things first, okay? And how about we give you guys this box? Alrighty. And you guys can have this box, okay? Apparently you're in charge, okay. All right. Okay, so open your boxes, and I want you to look through, and as you look through, there's certain things I want you to look for. I want you to look for, obviously, the readings. Who are the good readers at each group? Somebody volunteer. Okay, you be the reader for this group, so you're going to hand her all the reading materials. And you'll be the reader? Good. Okay, great. And you can be the reader. Okay, so you're going to hand her the reading materials. You're going to read it to the group. And when you go through the box, there are pictures in the box. And what I want you to do with these pictures is I want you to look for how the people are dressed, what their houses look like, that type of thing. Okay? What their occupations are. Because this is all going to play a part. Like, remember last unit we finished up, it was the Enlightenment? This is going to play in to this unit. The Enlightenment has a very, very big part in this unit that we're going to go through in this week. Okay? And if you pass around the pictures, okay, make sure you look at them. Yeah. That one actually has the most stuff in it. Yes.
Should we leave the other artifacts in the box?
Yes, absolutely. Take everything, that's what it's there for.
Okay.
And you might want to, you know, talk amongst yourselves and see why those are in there. Okay, think of. Nobody's looking today, are they? I should have messed up first. All right. So look through. Yeah, anything that's readable, and if you wouldn't mind reading that. And the only reason I'm assigning that reader is it'll save time. Okay. So actually, in this paper, you can probably give to her, and she'll pass it around.
Exercise many powers of privileges, not only over their different churches and clergy, but also the politics of the
How you
nation.
guys doing?
The French church was also organized under
Did you do any readings?
Why
don't you do the readings?
referring to the governing body of the Gallican Assembly of the Clergy and the laws of the Gallican Declaration of 1682. The Gallican system, as well as the French church, holding power in Philippines as the first established, created itself isolated from people influence, as well as keeping limitations on state control.
Now, on that one,
Gallicanism
did you read that out?
in France limited people control by allowing the Pope and Rome to govern over spiritual
Here's the word
scriptural aspects of the church. In addition, Gallicanism set the French church from the state, however, recognized the right to govern over temporal matters and freed the king from any burden of papal supervision.
How many hours?
Furthermore,
did he work
according to
a day?
historian John Manners, papal orders could not be granted without royal approval, and to separate papal influence even further, churchmen could not be judged by any authority outside the kingdom. Although the church in France isolated and limited the relationship of the Pope with the French Catholics, the monarchy and the papacy had a traditional and historical relationship that continued to exist between King Louis, what is that?
So 16
and Pope Pius VI, partly because the monarch was anointed and divinely blessed by God. In addition to the relationship between the Pope and King, the King also had a vital role
So
in
12
French
hours,
church.
6 days a week.
According
What
to
do you make?
historian Susan
And then read
Desan,
some of the beliefs
in
and
1789, Catholicism and the monarchy all worked with each other in mutual support. As the official religion of France, Catholicism had a virtual monopoly of public religious expression. While from the outside, the system may have seemed to be equal, by 1789 it was failed. Because of its organization and political affiliation as the first state, clergy and the church were extremely divided between noble bishops and common clergy who worked amongst the ordinary people of the third state. The clergy of France differed from aristocratic bishops in the cities to the common priest or cure who served as not only the foundation of the Catholic in his rural area, but also provided community with public service and education. Because of large privileges, but the church as the first establishment was one of the problems of the anti-incline views and divisions among the clergy.
What was that?
By 1789, it was recognized that reform was necessary to fix the problems, and even if
Ecclesiastic, that means church.
Civic and military positions were reserved for nobles. The right to levy taxes annually on land used for vassals. The right to charge a fee for the right to use his mill, ovens, or wine press. The right to demand a portion of the vassal's harvest in return for permission to live on land he owned, and had traditional rights over their vassals' local police functions in violation of, I'm not trying to say this word, just the word.
I would become a hunter and I have breasts Signorial.
Signorial?
Rights, yeah.
Signorial rights.
It's basically rights of the nobles. So did that one happen to mention that they don't pay taxes?
Yeah, it said exemption from paying the royal tax.
That might be one of the things that you guys might want to write down on your. You guys have the second estate boxes. Okay, so on your list of second estate, you might want to write down these different things. By the way, does anybody know what this is? It is the fleur de lis. Do you know what it's for? Okay. Could everyone look up a second, please? Does anyone know what this is?
For the, what is it called?
Fleur de lis.
Fleur de lis.
Does anybody know what it is? I'll tell you what. I will give you 5 extra points on your exam on the French Revolution if you go home tonight and you can come back and tell me what this is symbolizing. Okay? How we doing? Did everybody get to see the pictures? Uh-huh. So would you say these people are rich or? Okay, so those are things you want to note down.
Yeah, I want to go with that.
You guys obviously have the first estate because it's the third. Okay, so what you want to get down about them is, are they paying taxes? Do they have any special privileges? Are they rich or are they poor? How do they dress? How do you think they live? How do you think, is life tough for them? Is life good for them? Okay? How you guys doing? The other. So, you guys have the third estate.
I have a feeling.
So, what I want to find out from you is, how do you define positive as people? And first of all, who's in this estate? Is it just peasants? Did you go through the pictures?
It didn't look like that because there were some that looked like they were wearing fine clothing and
Ah,
drinking and.
very good observation, excellent observation. In truth, it isn't just the peasants. The third class is, or the third estate rather, is made up of everyone other than nobles. So you do have some rich in there, and you do have some middle class in there, and you have doctors, you have lawyers, you have, everybody always thinks about the third estate as being peasants, but they're not just peasants. So keep that in the back of your mind when you go through that and you start. Did we get to the readings in here? Who are these readings by? We should know this from last week. And he is with the.
There's also a graph on like 3 estates.
Good girl, he's with the Enlightenment, that's right.
The clergy.
And this is where it's gonna play a big part in history. This, in particular, in France, is one of the biggest influences of the Enlightenment. This is where it gets shown. How are we all doing? Just give me a little bit of a heads up when you think you have an idea. Yeah.
I think this would be the only that's like either side.
Are you noticing the pattern with your boxes?
Yes, definitely.
Do your boxes reflect, the outside reflect the inside? Yeah.
Compared to the other. I know.
This is the letter to cashier. This one, Did everybody get to read that?
That's not stage.
Okay. Are we just about ready to put everything together, guys? How are we doing with our list? Good? Alexa, you have beautiful handwriting. Would you be our board person today? Excellent. I want to show you guys something. This is from the third estate. This is called a letter of cachet. A letter of cachet is a letter that has the royal stamp, it has the royal seal, and it's signed by the monarch. And what this does is it says that whatever is in this letter is gospel. It cannot be changed. So I can come in and hand you a letter of cachet, and it can tell you that you are now going to the Bastille, and nobody can do anything about it. That's where you're going. Now, we have bench warrants in our country. What's the difference between a bench warrant and a letter of cachet? Stop and think about it. What does a bench warrant do? Where does it bring you?
To court.
Good girl. Who said it? That's exactly the difference. It brings you to court. That doesn't. There is no court. There is no trial. you just go. Those could be bought by the nobles. Are we dealing with a fair society? Okay, so let's get some of the stuff on the board and we'll get to see, because this, what we're doing today is our basis for the French Revolution. We're gonna see today why people, everyday people, and you have to remember that this box over here, if you forgot what it looks like, this box over here are people that you ride into Manhattan with on the subway. These are the people who pave your roads. These are your doctors, your lawyers. These are your everyday people. When we get into this revolution, it's probably one of the bloodiest revolutions in the history of civilization. What you're gonna find out is why. Today we're gonna find out the whys, what pushes people, everyday people, to the point of atrocities. So, why don't we start with, you guys have the first estate? Okay, why don't we put the first estate up? What did you guys? Oh, I'm sorry, I should have corrected you. First estate and then second estate and third estate.
Did you get all that?
Yeah, give me your first one.
Okay, well, it's the French Catholic Church.
Okay, so it's the church. What was your
They
first
did not
clue
pay.
on that?
They
The
did
big
not-
cross?
They did not pay, state or royal taxes.
Okay, no taxes.
They, cannot be judged by authority outside of the kingdom.
Very good. Do you know why that was? Can anybody take a guess on that? Who would be outside of the kingdom? Good, very good, excellent. The Pope. At this time in history, the Pope is starting to lose a lot of his power, but prior to this, remember from our previous lessons, he was probably the most powerful person on the face of the earth because he was the only one between the kings and God. So he wielded a lot of power. This was taking power away from him. Okay, and anything else?
The churches were extravagant, we thought, with like the pictures and everything.
Excellent. A lot of money spent. So, by that, the fact that the churches were extravagant, by the way, how were the priests that were, or the bishops and some of them were cardinals, how were they dressed?
They were dressed well.
Very well. So there's a lot of money. Now here's another misconception. Everybody assumes that the first estate was all very rich and they had lots of things, but this was not true. They were actually divided in this revolution because the upper hierarchy were very wealthy. But you had your curés, who were your local priests and that, who were not, and they were really for the people. As a matter of fact, who had the reading from Cézanne about the third estate? You guys must have had it, right? The guy who wrote that is actually a priest. Okay, how about the second estate? Oh, I'm sorry, did you guys finish or you have more?
There was one more I had.
Sorry.
Provided a community with public services and education.
Okay. So they were the educators. Very powerful place to be, right? Okay, second estate. What do you guys have?
Well, they were the nobility, so they were exempt from taxes.
Okay,
as
no
well.
taxes again.
We had that they were also, well, they were very rich, and like their estate, they held most of the money.
Good.
Well, they were also the minority of the population. It was a small class.
Right.
So they had the right to like hunt. They were able to carry a sword, and they also lived a lavish lifestyle.
Very good. The hunting is a big deal because all the land belongs to the nobility at this point. The third class can't go and hunt on their land because if they do, it's punishable by death if you don't have the permission. The carrying of the sword, it's almost like, you see how we have 3 different classes here? We're obviously talking about a social structure, right? Within the social structure, there's a social structure. The carrying of the sword were the ancient nobles. That was the creme de la creme. You couldn't get higher than that. If you had a sword, if you were allowed to carry the sword, you were a big deal. Your family went back generations in nobility. Okay, anything else you guys have?
And they also for the very rich, they lived a lavish lifestyle. So they were able to buy a lot of things, have a lot of nice clothes. We noticed that the hair for the women was extraordinarily tall.
Right, that was Marie Antoinette. She started that thing. Okay, so now third estate.
The third estate was pretty much everyone other than the nobles, so that could have consisted of doctors, regular people, peasants, just everyone that wasn't considered nobility or the church.
Good.
Life was relatively hard for the third estate. They paid taxes and didn't reap as much benefits from them.
Okay.
Their bread was extremely expensive, which didn't work out well with the fact that their wages were really low for such long hours.
Okay.
And in comparison to the first and second estate, their lifestyle was not glamorous whatsoever.
Okay. Now bear in mind, it wasn't just for the third estate that the bread was very expensive. In the third estate box, we have a bakery receipt and we have the wages for a week. And basically, your bread costs you 97% of your wages. By the time the revolution goes full out, 1 loaf of bread costs you a month's pay, not a week, a month's pay. How are you going to feed your children? How are you going to pay your rent? How are you going to pay your taxes with that? This is what spurts on the revolution. People are starving. People cannot pay. It doesn't affect the rich so much. They have the money. The clergy is always being taken care of, so they don't have to worry about it. The people who really get affected by it are here, the third class, or the third estate. Okay? What was the other thing I wanted to tell you about that? Price of the bread. Oh, it'll come to me. All right, so we have everyone who wasn't part of nobility. Bread was expensive, long hours, poor and starving. Okay, now, if you the other 2 estates, whatever 2 other estates you don't have down, because you didn't have the boxes, could you write down their stuff? Because you're going to use this for your essay tonight. What I want you to do is I want you to get a feel for how the people were in France, how, what life was like for each class, what was expected of them. If you notice, who's paying the taxes? Anybody else paying taxes? Okay, at this point, see the lavish lifestyle? Who do you think's paying for that? Pardon?
Commoners of the third estate.
Exactly, the third estate. Put on top of that, that Louis XVI is funding the Revolutionary War here in America. Are wars cheap? Okay, so it's even double. This man, well, actually his grandfather pretty much bankrupted the country, but he really bankrupts the country. Anybody know what bankrupt means?
Having no money.
Exactly. You've depleted the country of money. He wants to up their taxes. They're paying a month's wages for 1 loaf of bread. This was the other thing I wanted to tell you. I knew it would come back to me. The average French person, because bread is their staple, the average French man eats 4 pounds of bread a day. 1 loaf is costing you a month's pay. Can you understand why the revolution happens? Okay. So, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to copy down what you don't have, and for tonight's homework, what I would like you to do is write an essay on the 3 different estates, or you don't even have to make it into essay form, just do paragraphs, a paragraph on each, and I want you to tell me what you think are the most crucial things about each estate. Okay, and then tomorrow we'll go over it and see how we think they affect one another. And for your ticket out today, give me 5 things that you learned today here that you didn't learn, that you didn't know before you walked in this room. Does that sound good?
Let's assume you can all do 5 because we're running a little bit late.
Okay.
So you don't have to do the ticket out. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.